The first thing that hit me wasn't anger. It was disbelief. At 6:12 a.m., while the street outside was still dark and silent, my phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. I almost ignored it. Nothing good ever arrives before sunrise. When I played it, I actually laughed. A short, sharp sound. The kind you make when your brain refuses to accept what it just heard. The neighborhood association coordinator cheerfully informed me that my property had been selected for a private family celebration scheduled for the upcoming weekend. Parking plans were finalized. Vendors confirmed. Guests already invited. They just needed me to unlock the side gate and make sure the pets were secured. My chest tightened. They weren't asking. They were announcing. I stood in my kitchen, barefoot on cold tile, staring at the counter where my late wife used to leave sticky notes for me. Grocery reminders. Terrible doodles. Proof that this house was more than an address. It was the last place where life still felt familiar after everything fell apart. And now strangers had decided it was available. By mid-morning, confusion turned into pressure. Emails stacked up. A shared calendar invite appeared with my address typed boldly at the top. Someone even dropped off fabric samples through my mail slot, as if this was already settled business. My first instinct was to assume it was a mistake. Surely no one could be this bold. But when I walked down the block, I saw folding tables unloaded near my fence and a man measuring my hedges with professional confidence. He didn't flinch when he noticed me watching. He nodded like I was a helpful neighbor, not the owner. That's when the pit in my stomach hardened into resolve. I drove straight to the association building. Not furious, focused. The kind of calm that scares people when they finally notice it. Inside, half a dozen committee members sat around a glossy table, laptops open, voices overlapping. A large photo of my backyard filled the screen behind them. Angles, lighting notes, decorative overlays. They looked up late. "Oh, good," one of them said. "You're here early." I asked a simple question. "Who approved this?" They exchanged glances. Someone shrugged. Someone else smiled thinly and said the neighborhood needed a neutral space. And my property fit the aesthetic. Another suggested it would be nice for me to feel included again. Included. Grief doesn't make you invisible, but people act like it does. I told them no, quietly, directly. The room stiffened. The tone shifted. I was informed of commitments already made, of reputations at stake, of how inconvenient this was going to be for everyone involved. One woman tilted her head and asked if I was sure. I wanted to be difficult over something so temporary. Temporary. Like they assumed my memories were. I walked out without another word. By the afternoon, they escalated. Notices taped to my door. A warning about community cooperation. A reminder of bylaws. And then the real push. A truck rolled up with equipment and stopped just shy of my property line, waiting for permission no one bothered to request. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the back steps, staring at the yard. The uneven grass. The old pergola my wife and I never finished restoring. The cracked stone path she always said she'd fix in spring. I realized something then. I'd been preserving this space like a museum. Untouched. Frozen. Letting others tiptoe around it while I stood still. And stillness had made me an easy target. The next morning, I made calls. Not to argue, not to threaten, to act. When the machinery arrived, the association members gathered across the street in disbelief. No speeches, no shouting. Just engines humming and professionals doing exactly what I had hired them to do. The pergola came down carefully. The lawn was stripped, earth turned, markers placed. Everything planned. Everything legal. My property became unusable overnight. Phones rang. Voices rose. Accusations flew. Someone demanded to know how I could be so heartless with an event so close. I answered once calmly. This space was never offered. The noise faded fast after that. Lawyers stepped in. Records surfaced. Emails were reread with suddenly cautious eyes. The association realized they had built an entire fantasy on silence and assumption, neither of which counted as consent. The event was relocated. Apologies followed. Some sincere, some strategic. I didn't care. Months later, the yard looked different. Not restored, reimagined. Stone paths replaced grass. Native plants replaced decoration-friendly shrubs. A small water feature sat where the pergola once stood, catching sunlight in a way that felt right. Alive. Forward. People stopped asking favors. They started knocking. The association rewrote policies. Leadership changed. The phrase private property suddenly carried weight. And me, I slept better. Standing up didn't bring my wife back. It didn't erase loss. But it reminded me that grief didn't cancel my voice. That boundaries aren't cruelty. That silence invites takeover. Sometimes reclaiming yourself doesn't come with applause. Sometimes it comes with dirt under your nails, a cleared space, and the quiet certainty that no one will ever assume your life is available again.